Welcome to State of Ed, a podcast about education inside the classroom and out. My name is Marc Isix. Once again, Nick Simone's not with me here at EdCamp Long Island for Session 2. For Session 2, I'm sitting down with a number of educators to talk about creativity and innovation in the classroom. So welcome, everybody. This is Session 2. We're here at EdCamp Long Island. We're in Commack, New York, and sitting here with a number of educators. And if you wouldn't mind just going around the room and introducing yourselves, and we're going to talk about creativity and innovation in the classroom. So we'll start with Lisa. Go ahead.
My name is Lisa Wenc. I teach second grade in Levittown.
Welcome.
Hi, I'm Kathy Regan. I also teach second grade in Levittown.
Okay, so Levittown people stick together. I'm
Yes.
picking up on that. Yeah.
I'm also from Levittown. I'm a teacher at the same school as them. My name is Rich Schwartz.
Hi, I'm Allison Kaminsky. I am a French teacher in the middle and high school at Jericho School District.
Home of Don Gately. Shout out to Don right there. Yes.
Hi, Luisa Marino, elementary Spanish in the Massapequa School District.
My name is Saint-Cyr. I own a business designing and managing art programs.
My name is Ana Domingo. I teach Spanish and Italian at Commack High School.
Very nice.
So my name is Matt, and I work at Eastport South Manor Junior Senior High School
Very nice. In what capacity?
as a teacher assistant.
Very nice. So welcome everybody. So today we're having a roundtable discussion on creativity and innovation in the classroom. It's no secret to anyone here that technology is like not just a passing fad, but it has and is going to continue to transform the way everybody does everything, literally everything from shopping to how we view things, to how we consume things, and certainly for the purposes of this table, how we learn, how children think, how they interact with one another, and how we as educators interact with them. So I want to open up to the table, what kind of changes have you seen just in the last, let's say, even 2 or 3 years in your schools and your experiences?
We went from having students go to the labs to now having Chromebooks and the Chromebook card in the classroom. So every individual student has access to a Chromebook and they use it for fun, for games, but also for learning. We use Nearpod, quizzes, Kahoot, Quizlet, Pear Deck, anything and everything, Flipgrid, and it really has transformed the way the students respond to what they're learning and the way they respond to themselves learning.
Other thoughts?
I think it's a way to connect with the students for a language class, especially getting them to feel comfortable speaking in another language is a feat that's been difficult to challenge. And I think in speaking their language, like we did a speaking, I said, throw a Snapchat filter on there, change your voice, throw an emoji. I think just connecting to what's relevant to them, and technology's been such a seamless way to do that. That's what I'm finding.
And I think their comfort level, even second grade, between their exposure to YouTube, they have a voice already. They know the podcast or the presentation voice. They say, don't forget to click my channel and subscribe. Even when they're recording themselves explaining something that, from our, answer this question about a book or explain what you did for your STEM activity. They have a voice, that presentation voice, and their comfort with trying anything new on the iPad or any new experience.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm very lucky. I come from a district that is willing to invest a lot of money into new technology. So just last year, my curriculum associate invested in virtual reality gear. Wow. So not only can I show them like a map of Paris, but I can literally transport them to the Champs-Élysées and have them see, the environment of France within real time. So it is a daunting technology to kind of approach for the first time, and I'm still a little hesitant, but I'm learning and I'm picking up more things. And as long as there's that support from administration in terms of investing, I think it's only going to improve the way that students can connect to. And I'm coming from a foreign language background to the target language, the culture, and just a technological literacy that's going to help guide them through, the rest of their lives. Because, like you said, it's just it's ubiquitous. It's everywhere. So, as long as they're engaging in it, it's always going to be a benefit, in terms of communicative approach to language learning.
Did anyone pick up how she was flashing her fancy French accent there?
Yes, that will come out many times.
And what kind of control do you have there? Like you select the region of the world where
Yeah,
they're going to visit, and then they
basically-
just get into their gear and off they go?
That is the
Wow.
goal. Like I said, I'm not yet brave enough to try it with my 10th graders, but when I do get that bravery up and we finally start implementing it, none of the teachers have been brave enough, I think, to open up the boxes yet, but we have it, and I'm hoping to build up some kind of. We are doing a technology unit in 10th grade, so I'm hoping to kind of imbue that technology in with the curriculum.
If you're looking to integrate technology into and creativity and innovation into world language, and this really is applicable with any subject area, but I think it works particularly well with languages because of the cultural aspects of it. There's something called My Maps. I don't know if you're familiar with it,
Oh no,
but
definitely.
it works off of Google and Google Maps. And what you basically can do is you can create your own map using whichever base map from Google's collection you'd like. And you can go ahead and tag a particular part of the world. And you
I've
can
done
get
that,
granular
yeah.
with it, and you could pick a street, anywhere. And from that pin that you drop, you can then start to add all kinds of content to that pin. So, for example, I was literally just talking to our world language chair yesterday about trying to incorporate this into our world language classes. And the idea that I came up with while I was talking with him is, you know how in world language classes it's the typical travel brochure, like you should go to Paris because of the, and I won't say it because you say it better than I do. And you take out like the oak tag and you cut out the pictures, and that's beautiful and that's wonderful and that's worked for a very long time. But now they could do so much more right on a map. So what I was saying is, why don't you tell your class that you want to take your wife, he teaches Spanish, on a trip to Spain, and the group that can create the best presentation as a travel agency will get his business, and this way they're sort of in competition with one another, and they would have to go into this My Maps and create and add content from pictures. They can go and insert directly into YouTube videos. They can make their own videos and put them right into this pin. So when you see the map and it's filled with different pins, and they can change the icons of the pins, the colors, and it's totally controllable, and they can create this experience using the map, just layering and layering and layering right onto the actual map, creating their own videos and putting them right there. So when you go onto that and hover over that pin, it will bring up almost like a photo gallery of things that they've selected, or a video gallery of things that they've created or taken from the web, and that will be all part of their experience. It's also great for history classes, for example. So if you're learning about Egypt, there's no reason why you can't go into the map of Egypt and start to identify where the pyramid is, and then you can create your own presentations about all the different architectural, wonders of the region. And it's all student driven. It's all based on their creativity. It's all based on their innovation. And the reason to do that, and that's really the purpose of this roundtable, is because when students create and they innovate, they start to make meaning of what they learn. And it's no longer about you and your textbook or you and your content. I mean, I know when I first started teaching, not to date myself too much, but about 25 years ago. Now, come on in. Oh wow, you brought like the whole team. Holy cow.
We just doubled your size. Is that
Yeah, no, perfect. I get paid per person. This is wonderful. So for me, the reason that we want to promote creativity, we want to promote innovation, is because it makes learning more meaningful. And I was just starting to tell a story about when I first started teaching 25 years ago. The holy grail, the most important thing that a teacher had, the most powerful thing in the universe, was the teacher's edition of the textbook. It was like,
And the overhead projector.
and the overhead projector.
Yes.
And I remember as a child of two educators, my mom or my dad, sometimes every now and then, if their school happened to use the same textbook as my school in Brooklyn used, they would bring home the teacher's edition of the textbook, which was like knowing everything. It was like almost like you had a God complex if you had the teacher's edition. And that was so vital. And the teacher clutched that teacher's edition because it meant everything, because that had all the answers to everything. But where are the teacher's editions now? you don't need a teacher's edition doesn't mean anything anymore, because every one of your students has the answer to every single question that you could possibly ask them in terms of content on their phones. They carry the teacher's edition with them. So all of a sudden, it has, in some ways, taken away the power that the teacher used to have. So now what power does the teacher have? So for me, it's about changing the mindset of where our strength really is. And our strength, as far as I see it in this technological revolution, is that we have to figure out ways to make this meaningful to them. Every student walks into the classroom asking, why do I need to know this? And if we're not addressing that question in the preparation, if we're not addressing that question in the assignments that we give or the tasks that we give them to complete and hopefully to create and innovate, then we're missing like the most important piece that will help engage our students, help motivate our students. They need to know what's in it for them.
So prior to my teaching assistant position, a few years ago I was a social studies teacher in a local Catholic school. And a lot of what we're doing in social studies, especially with the next generation standards, is having students understand bias and also having them understand point of view. So while we're looking at different topics, say we're studying the Constitution, students have to evaluate the opinions of Federalists and Anti-Federalists. And one technological component that I used in the classroom was Twitter. So I had the students pretend that they were a Federalist, some historical figure, whether that was Alexander Hamilton, James Madison, or an Anti-Federalist, Thomas Jefferson. And they actually had Twitter debates about the Constitution themselves as if they were those historical figures. So they would have their own fictitious Twitter handle, and I had them like tweet 5 different tweets about the Constitution, and then their assignment was to reply as the historical individual to their students, their friends, and their peers' tweets. So it got them engaged with Twitter. They were really interested in that technology and that software, but it also got them to understand the historical aspect of it and putting themselves in the shoes of that historical figure. So I found that was really innovative, and the students really enjoyed it.
I've used WeVideo, and depending on what grade level, in the middle school level, I've created commercials, and it was about a particular country, and then I had to have my students recreate one themselves, where they are either a travel agency or a group representing the culture of that area that they want to bring tourists in, and they had to highlight the best parts of that place and create their own commercial and sort of present that to the class as their advertising. Mm-hmm. But on the elementary level, our curriculum is based with instruction of what they're learning in that grade level's curriculum. So when we do 5th grade, we also do Native Americans. So we've done Mayans, Incas, etc. And so I did the Mayan topic, and then I actually did a guided tour with the WeVideo commercial that I created on the ancient civilization. And so they got to actually see everything we discussed, live. So they get it. It's
Is
not
WeVideo different from Flipgrid?
So WeVideo is you actually create your own video.
Okay.
You can take in pictures, you can take in commercials, you can take in videos, clip it, edit it. You can add stuff to it, and then it's based on what you want the students to see. So it's not you just find something on YouTube and play it.
Okay.
So it's more relevant. On the middle school level, it makes it more relevant because they get to pick the country they want, probably a place that they visited or want to go to, and then they do the research in terms of what places to see, what is there to do, and then they have to gather the information.
Can you spell that? Is it
WeVideo,
just
W-E,
just W-E? Okay.
video. Mm-hmm.
And that's like a .com. It's just like a regular website. Okay.
Yeah, it's a Google extension that you can use, a Google app that you can use.
Okay, that's great, because these are the kind of resources that I feel could really, create.
I mean,
a
it's
deeper,
too complex for the elementary level for them to create it. That's why I create it. But on their level, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk from the special education or ENL, demographic of things. How are you either incorporating or how are you seeing technology, creativity, and innovation incorporated to try to help best educate and reach the kids that you're working with?
I actually have, I call it like a smart board circle. So my kids are really academically low where they don't know like the days of the week and stuff. So I put together a PowerPoint that has like songs with it, the months, a calendar where they can drag the number into the date, and like today is, and then they can drag the word. Tomorrow will be, yesterday was. And I do that every day. We tally like the days of school we've been in, so it's just incorporating like math and ELA all together. And it's a fun way where they don't really feel like they're doing work, but they're learning still.
That's a great point, because I'm a big advocate in like hiding the peas and the mashed potatoes. Like, we don't have to. One of the things that I'm an administrator, one of the things that drives me a little bit bonkers is when the lesson starts and the teacher says, "This is not one of the good lessons, but we have to do it for the test." I'm like, why would you even say that? I mean, it's like going on a first date and be like, "I'm really boring, and it's probably not going to go anywhere, but what would you like to eat for dinner?" Whereas it should be the polar opposite. It should be everything that's going to be exciting and interesting about what this is, and it's all going to be fun. And if you've learned when it's over, well, yeah, that's because I am Mr. Miyagi, and while you were painting the fence, you were really learning karate the whole time. That's, I feel, the role of the teacher.
I use Seesaw in the classroom. It's an app. There's a free version and there's a paid version. There's a lot available in the free version. I don't even know the difference, and we have the paid version, but we had the free first and it was great. So I didn't notice the difference. I think just maybe more activities are with like embedded in it that teachers have already created, maybe with the paid version. But basically everybody has, like, I teach elementary, so they all have their like little animal icons. It's kind of like they feel like they're on Twitter or Facebook, and it feels like they have a feed, and the feed is our classroom page. It's private, no one accesses it but us. You can make it like available to the parents, but you don't have to. I keep mine private to the classroom. It's kind of just our district's policy. And it kind of, I teach ENL, so a lot of students aren't confident enough in their work to maybe participate in the classroom or raise their hands, but this is a way that they can read a book that they feel confidently in a recording studio with the iPad, just recording on the app. And it's a video of them reading, or maybe they don't want to show their face, it's just the book cover and it's an audio video of them reading it. It helps me show parents privately, like at conferences, how they're doing and their progress of what they've done. Everything saves to like an online journal for each student, so it's like private, data.
Can they do a side-by-side when they're reading text?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a side-by-side translation for them so they can kind of work off of both languages simultaneously, try to acquire English?
It's really, there are activities that are created that they can participate and complete on the app, or I use it more in my classroom as more of like a share what you learned, and then other students can make comments, and like it's a way of encouraging positive talk in the classroom where they comment underneath somebody's work, like great reading, or I love this book, or they write what their favorite part was. So it's a way that I also get them writing because they're commenting on other people's work that they've shared. Even if they take a picture of the work they've done and they write a comment on it themselves, like a caption, it's them practicing their writing every day for a couple minutes.
Right.
Even when they're not so confident in their writing skills, it just stays in the classroom, and it's a place where they can feel confident sharing something they've done.
Can I share an idea? So I had observed an ENL classroom, and I gave this suggestion to the teacher because language is the barrier. It's not academics, it's not intelligence or anything else. Some of those students are as sharp as anyone else in the building. So what I suggested is, why don't you, they were reading, I think it was The Outsiders. So when you're doing a characterization study, why don't you start with emojis? Pick universal languages. Music's a universal language, math is a universal language, emojis are a universal language. Start with the universal stuff that everybody can pick up on right away. And let's say it's Pony Boy. Well, in this section of the text that we're reading, what emoji best expresses Pony Boy's emotional state right now? And then as different students come up with different emojis, you can ask them to explain, and this works obviously in any setting, it doesn't have to be in the ENL setting. Ask them to explain what's the difference between the smile with the eyebrow up a little bit and the smile with no eyebrow, or the smile with both eyebrows, because kids are communicating like this every day, 1,000 times a day. So when we're talking about creativity and innovation, we have to also kind of tap into what's already in the ether. They create and they use digital literacy skills all day long. They are composing constantly multiple or multimodal compositions on their phones. They're taking text, they're combining it with imagery, they're making memes, they're adding music, they're creating TikToks, they're adding filters and other types of visual, aids and so on. They're on Instagram, they're creating captions. They're constantly mixing text, video, sound, image. They're creating these multimodal compositions thousands of times a day. That takes a tremendous amount of skill because they're not just throwing together random things. Every single thing that they choose has a meaning. As a matter of fact, how many times, or at least as an administrator and perhaps as teachers, counselors, and so on, how many times does a child look upset, look depressed, start crying? What's wrong? Well, they sent me this emoji. They don't like me. They're not my friend anymore. I'm like, how'd you get all that from this emoji? They're like, well, because that was sent with an intention and it landed as intended. So that's the kind of intentionality that has to go behind creativity. So it's not just here's an iPad, here's a Chromebook, go make a movie on the pyramids. Okay, great. Well, now that you've made this movie, why did you choose the things that you chose? Why did you choose those images? Why did you choose that sound? Why did you choose that sequence? How is your video on or your presentation on Egypt different than Group B's? And what was your intention? What was your intention? Do you feel like you've communicated your intention and that it came out the way you wanted it to? If yes, why? If no, why not? And if you had to do this again, what would you do differently? Once you start asking those kind of questions, then you're really taking the creative and innovative tools and you're using them to have kids think critically. And as far as I'm concerned, the most important thing that we have to do in schools is get kids to think creatively and to think critically, because those critical thinking skills will serve them well for the remainder of their days in whatever it is they choose to do. And like all the things that you read say, most of the things they'll be doing, most of the majors that they'll be majoring in, they don't even exist right now. So we can't possibly be tailoring these things, but we can give them the skills that will allow them to thrive when they get out there. So for me, with the emoji exercise, just even comparing this emoji to that emoji, what are the granular differences? Because they make a difference. And why would you use this one versus this one? It tells a totally different story. So is Pony Boy this emoji right now or this emoji right now? Well, he's this emoji. Well, my next question as the teacher is, why? Show me some excerpt of text to support, now we're getting into evidence-based claims, which is all Common Core, right? But I'm hiding the, like, we were talking about before, the peas and the mashed potatoes. I'm not telling them, well, Common Core standards say that we have to find evidence, so let's find, snooze. I'm doing it in a creative way where they're already leaning in. So now that I have them, let's just kind of take it to the next level, and take it to the next level, take it to the next level. I don't have to announce what I'm doing. That's my craft. My craft is that you don't get to see anything that's going on behind the curtain. When I go into the magic show, the person is levitating. That's all I know. I don't know that there's a crane and there are guys who are union workers, smoking cigarettes and operating the crane up and down. That's not for me to know. I just have to see the illusion and be entertained by it. So what are some other examples of creativity and innovation as you've seen it, or perhaps as you'd like to incorporate it in your experience in the classroom?
Well, I was just going to say, this week, Lisa and I have been teaching it just in math, second grade math, how to use an array to help you figure out, how to simplify and organize finding a sum. And, started as a quick Post-its jumbled on a chart, and how, you could count it, took a long time, we timed them. How you could take that same thing, and the next day I gave them a baggie full of some kind of a manipulative little dinosaurs, little frogs, whatever. That was half the battle right there with a 7-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
But how to arrange those in different arrays depending on your amount. And then they took a picture. Then they, right on the picture, made their equations and explained what they did.
That's great.
And just to convey it to the other kids, here's what I did.
Right, and the conveying it to the other kids is the key. An old professor of mine once used to call those things like live events. Try to find ways to create live events for kids. It raises the stakes in a good way.
I would like your opinions on this, but something that I would like to start is like arts integration in non-art classrooms. I've seen it happen in the city, and it's something that I see the impact of, but it's basically using arts as an avenue through which the students apply content that they've already learned. So for example, in an elementary math class, if they're learning about coordinates, grids, we could have like a teaching artist residency where a teaching artist comes in, talk with the teacher and creates the curriculum. And after they've learned about, coordinating grids, we're gonna do an art project inspired by a famous artist named Mondrian. He created these grids, very geometric, and then they kind of have to work through it and create, the grids and figure out where the coordinates are, and maybe specific coordinates will have specific colors. But it's just having them like visually express or communicate what they've learned. And this also for ESL students help level the playing fields, because in art, language doesn't really matter as much. That's just like a program that I'm looking into getting started into schools on Long Island.
That's great. I mean, as you're saying that, I'm thinking,
Yeah, sounds
you know,
Okay.
Yeah.
is there art in math, and is there math in art? Because typically
There is.
we just associate, math and science, English and history. What we're seeing now, and maybe it's just a reflection of the age, the AI that's very quickly creeping into our world, where we're starting to see connections between things that we never really were able to see before. That's what AI really does. It starts to find patterns of massive amounts of data. So we're all of a sudden looking at and examining things in ways that we've never looked at or examined them before. So what you're expressing sounds
Yeah, okay.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like a good, I'll just make it quick. A good
No, please.
example with like math and art is that last year I was an art assistant to an artist in Bushwick, and she had a 38 by like 30 feet ceiling mural that she had to do. And our paper was this big, and we had to find a way to turn it into this big thing, and it was a lot of math inside of it, because it was basically a geometric like artwork of the streets of Bushwick. So each line represented a street, so there were like lines going into each other, because if you look in Google Maps, it's all lines. So that's what she did, was took those lines and added colors, but it was all math, and you had to
And that's a great way to reach those like artistic, creative
Yes.
learners who
Yeah.
need that kind of like physical work of or like visual stimulus to really get engaged in what they're trying to learn. So I
Yeah.
think that's
And
fabulous.
graphic design, because my background is graphic design, is all about math and computers.
Yeah.
So numbers of pixels, how to blow it up, and how to shrink it, and how, So
Right. Well, cooking is
Yeah.
all math. I mean,
Yes.
it's everywhere. That's why math gets such a bad rap, because too often it's taught just in isolation. Like, this is math for math's sake, as opposed to where's the math in art? Where's the math in cooking? Where's the math in graphic design? Where's the math in games? The kids play games all day long. All it is math. That's one of the roles that technology can provide. It can very often, the barrier to entry for kids is way too high. So what happens? A child looks at it and they're like, nah, forget it. Not even gonna bother, because that's just too high. What can we do to help take a sledgehammer to the barriers to entry? So when a child approaches some content, they can look and see over that barrier to the other side and say, all right, you know what? This is kind of scalable. And I see that my teacher has kind of laid out some stepping stones for me, or a stool, or a rope, or whatever. So I can kind of see myself getting over this. Once we do those kinds of things, we'll be able to get them much further along in areas of content. But if we just keep those barriers up just because our standards say this and our requirements say that, well, then we're not helping kids get to the areas and the levels that we want them to get to. There's no shortage of alternative programming for them to turn to. This is not like 30 years ago or 50 years ago or 100 years ago. They can just get on their phone and be occupied instantaneously and forever. And they never have to come back to you, ever. And they'll be perfectly satisfied. So how do we fight that? The way you fight that, in my opinion, is you find ways to motivate students, you find ways to engage students, find ways to get them to create, find ways to get them to innovate. And if you turn your classrooms into centers of those types of things, you could do any content you want on the highest levels that you want. But you can't just look at it from like, well, this is the AP, this is serious, this is college now, it's serious, learning is no fun when you get to college, it's work, work, work. Well, you're not really selling college. You're not selling the continuation of education. And more importantly, you're not selling lifelong learning. You're saying that it's about this curriculum and it's about this test. And after this curriculum is over and after this test is over, then you don't need it anymore because it only exists to serve that one purpose. And that's very sad. Because that's not what education's about. And God knows, with this technology, we all have the ability to become lifelong learners in every conceivable way. I had to get I was at the car dealership, and they wanted to change my air filter and charged me $125 to change it. So I said, you know what, I'll get back to you on that. And I went on YouTube while I was sitting there waiting to change my oil, and I looked up how to change your air filter. And from my phone, in the waiting room, on Amazon, I ordered the filters and watched a 2-minute video on how to do it. And they said, you sure you don't want to do it? I said, no, I'm good. 2 days later, it arrived at my house. I spent about 8 minutes, and I changed it and saved myself whatever that money was. I became a mechanic to serve my own needs. Don't ask me to fix your car. Definitely don't want me anywhere near your car. But I became a mechanic to serve my needs. I learned how to do that from YouTube. Mm-hmm. And we all have our own, 1,000 stories of our own experiences doing that, and they have it too. So my point is that they don't need us to learn content. They need us to inspire them, they need us to motivate them, they need us to understand why these things are important and how to think. And the content is just a part of that.
I think this experience has kind of inspired me to use podcasts in my classroom. Like, I never even thought of the idea of students being able to express themselves in the target language while using a podcast. So, after this is done, I'm probably going to pick your brain on how, you got involved and what are the good resources for a full class of students to be able to record podcasts and submit them as evidence that they're communicating within the curriculum and the demands of the project or the assignment. I think that's a really great way to foster, not just presentational communication, interpersonal, and really get them speaking, in a more fluent way where they feel at ease. Because all my kids listen to podcasts, all my kids watch YouTube, so this is. Not only did I get a lot of websites and other resources that I could use in class, but just the whole idea of a podcast as a means of communication, I feel is just really important for not just world language, but for any discipline.
Yeah, as you're saying that, as I teach very young kids with autism, I'm thinking what a nice idea, because I have parent groups at times, they talk about their issues, they feel so isolated, to do a podcast regarding, what it's like to raise a kid with autism, and chit chat with them if they'd be, because you don't see their face, you don't know their name, but it would be helpful.
Thank you so much for coming to the session. I hope that you were able to walk away with some insights and some things that you can take with you back to your schools. Hope you enjoy the rest of your EdCamp Long Island 2019, and best of luck to everybody.
Thank you.
As usual, you can find older episodes of State of Ed Podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any other platform. You can also find us on the web, stateofedpodcast.com. You'll find links to what we've discussed and also Twitter handles from those educators whom I interviewed here today. You could also follow us on Twitter at SOE Podcast, or you could follow me on Twitter at Marc Isix. It's been a great day here in Comac, New York, and hopefully Nick and I will be able to return to a future EdCamp Long Island. We're looking forward to it. Have a great one.